Unbelievable secrets revealed, why God struck down Ai in a shocking biblical tale. Few knew what truly happened that night in the land of Judah. The stars dimmed, whispering secrets, as darkness crept over the village like a shroud. Ai, the firstborn of Judah, sat in a quiet corner of his home, the weight of the world collapsing upon him. His heart raced, each thump echoing in his chest like the drums of war. Shadows danced on the walls, distorting reality. Whispers floated in the air, hinting at unspeakable acts, sealed lips, and a fate so horrifying, it left the entire community trembling. In ancient times, families were bound by more than blood, they were anchored by the covenant of God. Judah, a revered figure among the tribes of Israel, carried the expectations of generations. Ai was meant to be a champion, a torchbearer of hope. Yet, whispers suggested darkness lay within him, a seed of wickedness that festered and threatened to consume him whole. How could a son of Judah, from such noble lineage, bring only shame and despair? As night veiled the world in silence, a storm brewed in the heavens. The air crackled with divine tension. Angels watched with furrowed brows. God, in his infinite wisdom, seemed to direct his gaze solely at Ai. The moon, full and unblinking, appeared to hold its breath. Ai's life hinged on a razor's edge. Strange events led to this very moment: a sudden loss of fortunes, unnatural storms ripping through the fields, answers drowned out by ominous silence. Those around him felt it, an unseen hand straying too close, urging fate into darker corners. Then came the night of judgment, cloaked in mystery. An unexplainable chill gripped the tone of the hour. Everything quivered. Families gathered, speaking in hushed tones, eyes wide, heartbeats shared like synchronized drums. Then, the furnace of God's wrath ignited, a blinding flash lit the shrine of the family, illuminating air, suspended between worlds. Thunder roared. How was it possible that the ground could tremble so? Fear splattered across face, mothers wailing, fathers clenching fists, disbelief swirling like a tempest. The unimaginable happened. Air fell limp, an angel sigh echoing in the winds. God struck him down. A young life, extinguished. The villagers recoiled, unable to grasp the horror that unfolded. The whispers turned into screams. A tragic tale, woven with threads of conflict, condemnation, and fear of the Almighty. What had Ai done to deserve such a divine sentence? What dark transgressions lay buried beneath his skin? For a moment, silence reigned. The shattered look on hearts caught in shock told a story more profound than words could convey. They were left to ponder, to question. Why was the divine hand unleashed? The burning question echoed in the depths of their souls: would Ai's demise bring answers about the darkness within, or only deepen the shadows of despair? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The stillness following the lightning strike upon Ai was palpable, each breath drawn by the onlookers laced with disbelief. A sudden darkness descended over the community, not just from the shadow of the night but from an unsettling weight, heavy with unanswered questions. Was this a punishment? An act of divine justice? The villagers, left with more fears than facts, began to form their own interpretations of the tragedy that had unfolded before their very eyes. As days turned into nights, murmurs continued. Some speculated that Ai had been cursed, his soul marked by hidden sins, while others whispered that perhaps the blame lay not solely with him, but with the ancestral ties that bound him to Judah. Had the sins of generations past risen to weigh heavily upon their lineage? Perhaps the very foundation of their covenant with God was fraying, stained by transgressions that echoed through time. The elders walked among the people, wearing their expressions like cloaks of sorrow and contemplation, eyes squinted against the mysteries of a divine plan they struggled to comprehend. Among these seekers of truth was Leah, Ai's young wife, whose heart still pulsed with love for the man she mourned. She had felt the warmth of their laughter, shared the secrets of their hopes, dreams, and aspirations. Bewildered by the sudden shift, Leah refused to believe that her husband could have been so deeply laden with guilt to deserve such a fate. Her vision turned inward. In her grief, she yearned not just for answers but for understanding what depths of darkness could have entwined itself around Ai's spirit, leading to such catastrophic results. Each morning at dawn, Leah wandered to the hill overlooking the valley, the same hill where they had once sat hand in hand, daydreaming about their future. Now each step was heavy with sorrow, but she sought something beyond despair. She pondered the heart of God, whose decisions seemed unfathomable to her pocket-sized mind. Was the act of striking down indeed an act of love, aimed at correcting the course of a life veiled in shadows? Or was it merely a frightening display of power, leaving the faithful to quake in uncertainty? One fateful morning, Leah resolved to climb the very temple had constructed, a testament of their dreams and efforts. She reached the altar, where the flickering flame offered a semblance of hope among the chaos. "O God," she cried out, her voice trembling against the still air, "if mercy still resides within you, let me bear witness to the truth. Reveal to me what is hidden in the depths of Er's heart. Was it sin, temptation, or was it weakness that guided him astray?" The echo of her plea lingered like a wisp, stirred by a slight breeze but failed to return, leaving an unsettling silence as the weight of a question clung heavily in the atmosphere. There, enveloped in solitude, Leah contemplated the possibility that understanding may not always lead to solace. How could a mere mortal grasp the complexities of divine judgment when her heart was seared by grief? Days turned into nights as Leah continued to seek the truth either through prayer or by searching the folds of memory for any signs of wrongdoing. Like a mariner navigating uncharted waters, she braved the storm of uncertainty. Meanwhile, the village remained restless, and the air still hummed with transgressions uncomfortably left untouched. And then one twilight, as she knelt before the altar once more, crying not only for air but for the very soul of her community, a thought struck her with the force of revelation: could the fate of air serve a purpose beyond their comprehension? If God had orchestrated this tragic tale, would it not be to unveil deeper truths about walking in faith amidst hidden flaws and darkness? Thus, the villagers remained consumed with questions. Had Er's fall brought about a transformation within themselves or left them more lost in the wilderness of their thoughts? As Leah stared into the flickering flame, a new question reverberated within: what would it take for them to find a path to redemption? Clarity, or perhaps even forgiveness? And what other mysteries lay ahead in this tapestry of faith and doubt? As the days melted into each other like the flickering shadows cast by the temple's flame, the village stirred in a dark orchestration of grief and confusion. Leah's heart bore the weight not only of her love for air but the burdens of collective sorrow. Their shared dreams now lay shattered, splintering like broken pottery underfoot. She wondered, each step haunted by echoes of laughter that now felt foreign, as if belonging to a reality that belonged to someone else. The weight of unanswered questions pressed against every villager. The elders convened more frequently in quiet corners, their voices lowering to murmurs. They spoke of sin, of judgment, and of the mysterious paths carved by divine hands. Was it time for purification? A time to set their eyes back upon God, to renew their covenants with trembling hearts? Would they be called to repentance, or was this simply to remind them of their fragility? Leah decided to seek the counsel of Reuben, the village scribe, a man respected for his wisdom and gentleness. He had dedicated his life to understanding the sacred texts, unraveling their depths. She found him beneath the old fig tree, sun-dappled and immersed in scrolls that unfurled around him like the wings of an ancient bird. "Reuben," she called softly, approaching with a heart quaking with anticipation. He looked up, nodding solemnly. "Leah, you bear a heavy countenance. What troubles your spirit, me beloved?" she breathed, her voice catching in her throat. "His fate has left a stain upon our people. I wonder if his transgressions were only his, or if we, too, share in whatever sins have drawn this calamity upon us. Can you help me understand?" Reuben, studying her face, nodded knowingly, as if he too had wrestled with the same thoughts. "In our texts, my dear Leah, we find histories of families who bore both the light and the dark. Their stories often reveal that the strands of sin and virtue are interwoven, revealing not merely the individual but the collective. God's justice, however harsh it may seem, often serves to awaken us, to bring us back to a place of reflection. What does that mean for us?" Leah asked, her brow furrowing. "How do we decipher this pain? It calls us to introspection," he offered gently, "to uncover the hidden darkness among ourselves. Perhaps Er's fall was not solely for his own redemption but to urge the entire community to seek the hidden sins that persist like weeds choking a beloved garden." As she contemplated his words, her mind swirled with thoughts of her neighbors, each woven tightly into the fabric of their shared existence. Had they abandoned kindness in their pursuit of self-interest? Had jealousy or gossip taken root among them, unnoticed until this tragedy unveiled it? Perhaps God was not only calling for recognition of Er's missteps but beckoning them all to confront their shadows. With a flicker of determination igniting within her, Leah felt emboldened. "Then perhaps we must gather," she declared, "not to condemn, but to share, to seek the truth that lies among us. We must reveal our hearts before God and one another. Reuben nodded, a smile flickering across his lips, a glimmer of hope in the bleakness that lingered. A gathering of hearts, indeed. That is the essence of community. As word spread through the village, a palpable tension filled the air, an uneasy anticipation mixed with dread. Leah felt both frightened and invigorated. They were stepping into a realm of vulnerability, where fears could be exposed, sins unveiled, and perhaps, healing could begin. On the eve of the gathering, Leah lit a small fire at her doorstep, the warm light flickering against the cool darkness that enveloped the night. Staring into the flames, she whispered a prayer, "May we find courage to seek each other's truths, even in the shadow of Er's fate. Grant us the wisdom to recognize our burdens and the strength to confront them." As villagers arrived and settled around the fire, Leah's heart raced. Would they embrace vulnerability, or would the weight of judgment shackle them in silence? In the soft glow, she shared her vision of collective healing and understanding, and one by one, voices emerged like timid birds taking their first flight, their confessions spilling into the night, revealing desires and failures that each had kept hidden. But at the dawn of openness, Leah couldn't shake the throbbing question that looked in her heart: was this moment of revelation a step toward redemption, or simply unearthing hidden sorrows meant to weigh them down further? What unseen depths lay ready to be explored within the hearts of the villagers, and could they withstand the spiritual truths that lay beneath the surface? As the gathering deepened under the watchful eyes of the stars, the rhythmic crackling of the fire seemed to harmonize with the uneven cadence of their confessions. Each voice wove a thread into the tapestry of their shared existence, creating a narrative as sacred as the scrolls that Reuben held dear. Leah sensed that tonight, they were not just uncovering individual burdens but beckoning forth the spirit of something far greater than themselves. The communal heart of their village. One elder, Miriam, spoke of a long-held grudge against a neighboring farmer, a resentment that had colored her thoughts and actions. "I cursed him in silence," she admitted, her voice low but clear. Each word a dagger, unnoticed yet deadly. "In my anger, I allowed his flaws to overshadow my own, forgetting that we, too, are all flawed vessels." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, the weight of unspoken pain lifting like mist at dawn. Another villager, Jonathan, with years etched into his weathered face, revealed the ache of jealousy that had surged within his heart as he watched his neighbor prosper. "I wanted what was not mine, and in my heart, I built walls instead of bridges. The envy brewed like a poison, and now, it seems my spirit has been tainted as well." The confessions were raw and unfiltered, spilling across the gathering like a river bursting its banks. Leah felt the energy shift, a crescendo forming, nourished by the honesty that enveloped them, binding them together in vulnerability. Yet, amidst the outpouring, a fear lingered in her chest. What if the revelations bore a truth that was too great to bear? What if their confessions opened doors to deeper shame? Then, as if summoned by her thoughts, an unexpected silence fell, heavy and thick. The villagers turned their eyes to Hezekiah, the village's most reclusive member, whose presence had been as rare as the stars on cloudy nights. His brows were furrowed, and an unmistakable glimmer of conflict danced in his eyes. "I have hidden thoughts, too," he spoke softly, gripping his knees as though they were anchors. "For years, I have doubted the goodness of our Lord. I wondered why he allows suffering to touch the innocent while the wicked prosper. My disbelief festered beneath the surface like an unhealed wound." Gasps punctuated the air, an unwitting ripple cascaded through the villages. Leah's heart quickened. Was this what they had been seeking? Not merely truth unveiled but the courage to confront their own doubt in the presence of one another. But what if our suffering is not a punishment but a call? Hezekiah continued, emboldened by their attention. Perhaps God does not deliver calamity, but rather allows us to wrestle with our shadows to draw us back to Him. His words ignited a spark among the group, each person processing his audacious reflections. What if their pain, their struggles, and Er's fate were woven into a much more profound tapestry of divine mystery, challenging yet beckoning them toward greater understanding? Yet, as their hearts resonated with this thought, Leah felt an unease creep back into her spirit. Could they truly embrace this notion of suffering as a divine call? Was it possible to view their pain through the lens of growth rather than despair? The night stretched on, each voice finding power in honesty. Yet, within the collective courage, an undercurrent of doubt continued to churn, a looming question buried beneath their confessions. Were they, in sharing their truths, only inviting deeper vulnerability, or were they collectively holding up a mirror to one another, examining the darkness while underestimating the light that could emerge? As the fire dwindled to embers, Leah's gaze drifted toward the horizon, where dawn began to break with hesitant grace. A new day awaited, but what it would bring remained uncertain. The village's heart had unveiled its shadows, yet Leah could not shake the profound question simmering within her: was this a journey toward collective redemption, or merely the prelude to greater trials yet to come? Under the pale blush of dawn, murmurs lingered in the hearts of the villagers like the fading stars. Leah stood at the edge of the gathering, her spirit worn yet striving towards understanding, reflecting on the tale spun through the night, each confession a thread woven into the very fabric of their community. The air was crisp, invigorating, yet laden with a weight only the early hours could know. In the stillness, Leah found herself drawn to the ancient oak that stood sentinel on the village's outskirts. Its gnarled branches, robust and reaching, bore witness to countless seasons, much like the stories shared by a people. She leaned against its time-worn trunk, allowing the bark's strength to seep into her thoughts. What a paradox life presented, the ugly merged with the beautiful, the suffering intertwined with the sublime. But even as she contemplated this, her heart called forth an undeniable truth. The shadows unveiled last night were not merely personal grievances, they echoed a greater wound that lay unaddressed among them. The heaviness of Heirs' fate lingered, a dark cloud casting its shadow over their shared grief. Hezekiah's eloquence regarding suffering struck a chord, but Leah sensed that the ajar door to understanding was fragile, susceptible to being blown shut by doubt. Once more resolute, she turned back toward the village, visions of the elders, those stalwart figures steeped in wisdom, drifting through her mind. They had gathered together for decades, witnessing life unfold in its chaos and beauty. What did they know about air? What secrets were buried in the soil of their history, hidden like roots beneath the earth? As she approached the communal fire pit around which they had shared their truths, she spotted Miriam deep in conversation with Jonathan. Their voices, once raw with confession, now brimmed with an urgent energy. Leah felt an instinct tugging at her heart, urging her to approach. "What are you discussing?" she asked, her curiosity piqued. Miriam turned with a gentle smile, but Leah noticed a flicker of concern clouding her eyes. "We were reflecting on the tales of our ancestors. They also faced moments of adversity, and yet, they found ways to transform their trials into wisdom." Jonathan nodded, pursing his lips thoughtfully. "But what if their wisdom holds deeper implications for us now? What if Heirs' fate serves a purpose we have yet to discern?" At that moment, the coalescing thoughts ignited a fire within Leah's heart. What if our struggles are not mere burdens, but lessons meant to lead us towards something greater? Perhaps there is a divine reason interwoven with Heirs' death, a call for us to awaken, to seek answers in the depths of our despair. As the words left her lips, pregnant with possibility, a stirring began to ripple among the villagers who had gathered to listen. Leah glanced around, noting the mixed expressions of anguish and hope on their faces. What truth lurked behind Heirs' tragedy? If they could glimpse the divine purpose hidden within their suffering, might they illuminate a path towards healing? But even as the idea took root, Leah felt a tremor of doubt under her skin. Would their pursuit of answers lead them closer to understanding, or would it open Pandora's box, revealing the darkness they had concealed for too long? The rejoicing hearts that surrounded her now seemed haunted by a duality. The greater the light they sought, the more potent the shadows became. Elders began to gather, their wisdom looming large in the wake of uncertainty. Jacob, a revered elder, asked the villagers to share the stories of their ancestors' trials and triumphs, inviting them to reveal the hidden gems of wisdom buried within. As they shared, Leah felt herself swept into the current of their history, a shared narrative delicately stitched between life and death, loss and grace. But amidst the stories flowing into the dawn, Leah pondered quietly. Was there something more beyond these tales? Was air a catalyst, a pivotal point igniting the search for transformation in their hearts? They were wrestling not only with their narratives but the larger question of existence itself. How does one navigate the intertwining fates of suffering and purpose? As the sun broke fully into the sky, casting warmth over the village and igniting the embers with fresh life, Leah found herself poised on the cusp of revelation. Yet one question lingered, echoing in the silence of each heart. In unraveling the tapestry of their grief, would they find hope intertwined with despair, or would they merely awaken to the shadows that had long been forgotten? The sun's ascent painted the village in shades of gold, yet a veil of uncertainty still hung heavy in the air. As the villagers shared tales of their ancestors, Leah felt a stirring in her spirit, a flicker of revelation waiting to rise. Though she listened intently, her thoughts wandered beyond the narratives being spun. Miriam's voice rang clear, pulling her back to the conversation. "In every story, there exists a turning point," she said softly, her eyes glistening with understanding. "A fracture through which light can seep, even in the darkest of times." Each tale of endurance seemed to echo the winds of change rustling through the ancient oak that Leah had embraced earlier. But Leah wondered, was Heirs' death truly a fracture, or merely the culmination of unresolved echoes that had haunted their collective consciousness? The villagers spoke of heroes who rose from despair, yet here they stood, bewildered by the loss of one who once held promise. Would their reflections on the past lead them to uncover a divine purpose, or would it remain obscured behind the shadows of their grief? Jacob, with his weathered face etched by life's trials, urged his people to delve deeper. What if each trial holds a secret? He proposed, his voice reverberating with authority. What if we uncover truths that link us to not just our present, but to the hand of the divine shaping our paths? An uneasy silence fell, an acknowledgement of the fragility of belief. Leah's heart quickened. Could it be that Er's fate invites us to search beyond ourselves? She ventured. Perhaps we must confront not only our grief but also the beliefs we hold about suffering and its purpose. Jonathan interjected, but must we not first grapple with why this suffering befalls us? Is it punishment? Are we meant to learn through the pain? Or is it within this very suffering that redemption waits to be grasped? Each word clawed at the edges of Leah's resolve, compelling her to venture deeper into the unknown. As the villagers wrestled with these truths, Leah noticed a shift among them, a collective awakening sparked by their questions. Yet, amidst their engagement, she couldn't shake the sense of unease that cascaded like ripples through her consciousness. What if, by seeking meaning in Er's tragedy, they unearthed more questions than answers? Each voice contributed to the dialogue about past struggles, but Leah felt them reaching for something beyond simple remembrance. The patterns they traced, the stories unfolding. What if they were about reconciliation, not just with their past woes, but with the very essence of life and its transient beauty? Was it not human to seek a connection, even in sorrow? The sun rose higher, warmth spilling over the villages like a cloak, yet Leah found herself pondering the significant weight of their discussions. Were they inadvertently crafting a narrative that could lead them into darkness, or was there hope flickering through their questions, a reminder that even in confusion, they sought understanding? Suddenly, the whispers among the villagers grew tumultuous. What if our search for meaning obstructs our ability to feel? One voice called, breaking the bond of shared resolve. What if our restless hearts blind us to the gift of simply being present in our pain? Leah's breath caught. How easily hope could mutate into despair when mixed with expectation of answers. Were they meant to feel lost before finding their way? Each member of the community hovered between discovery and doubt, and Leah sensed the true mystery lay not merely in Er's demise but in their collective journey toward embracing what it means to be human, vulnerable, yearning, and deeply interconnected through their suffering. As the day meandered toward midday, she wondered whether their reckoning would reveal a greater truth, illuminating the paths they hid from one another. In this tangled web of inquiry, she realized one notion shimmered bright: a resolve to continue seeking, but with open hearts that allowed room for both joy and anguish. Would they find what they were looking for, or might they instead illuminate once again the shadows they feared? In this midst of their shared exploration, where would their pursuit of truth ultimately lead them? As the midday sun settled in its ascent, casting an ethereal glow over the meeting place, the villagers began to break away from their circle. Thoughts hung palpably in the air like the heat rising from the earth, unresolved and restless. Leah, deeply engrossed in contemplation, felt an urge to reach beyond her immediate thoughts, to the very essence of community that tied their hearts together in this moment of confusion. Gathering her resolution, she sought out Miriam, who sat beneath the broad branches of the ancient oak, the impressive roots twisting into the ground as if holding the earth itself in embrace. Placing her hand gently on Miriam's shoulder, Leah asked, "Do you believe Er's journey ended merely in despair, or is there a greater lesson hidden within?" Miriam looked up, her eyes reflecting depth far beyond her years. "Child, in our suffering, we often forget that every soul carries a light meant to shine, even in darkness. Er may have become a vessel for revelation, challenging us to perceive the sacred in our shared heartbreak." Leah considered this, the words resonating like distant echoes of ancient truths. It became clear to her that each tale woven by the villagers bore remnants of their interconnectedness. Could it be that Er's death was a brushstroke within a larger divine tapestry, inviting them to recognize the threads binding their spirits together? At that moment, a hush fell over a gathering of villagers nearby, their animated discussions quieting at the sight of Jacob, who slowly approached them, his gait deliberate as though the weight of thought clung closely to him. "There is a story," he finally began, drawing their attention. "A tale passed down through generations, of a man named Job. His trials were relentless, yet in his darkest hours, he inquired of God. He sought understanding amidst anguish, and in the questions, he found a relationship with the divine that transformed his suffering into a dance of trust." The villagers leaned in, hungry for words that could unveil purpose. Jacob continued, "What if we too, like Job, are invited to engage in discourse with the divine, to wrestle with our questions openly? Might we also discover a hidden abundance of grace within our own suffering?" Leah's heart surged with fervor. But how do we initiate this dialogue? How do we discern wisdom from our grief? From the back, Jonathan raised his voice. Maybe we're not meant to seek an answer but rather to engage with our pain. What if the conversation itself is sacred? Their words intertwined, floating in the air like the songs of distant birds. Leah could sense the collective yearning. It wasn't merely clarity they sought, it was an assurance that in their struggle, they were not alone. They, too, were a tapestry, woven together by grief and joy. Yet, questions loomed ever present. What if their search for answers led them to deeper questions? What if, despite their efforts, they remained unaware of the divine presence shaping their path? Suddenly, a young child approached, her innocent gaze piercing through the heaviness of the moment. "Why are you sad?" she asked, her voice a soft melody amidst the chaos. The question held weight, a reminder of purity and truth unclouded by adult concerns. Leah knelt down to meet the child's gaze, feeling a shimmer of hope. "We are wondering about a friend who is no longer with us." The child pondered this for a brief moment. "Maybe he is not gone. Maybe he is with the stars, helping us see where to go." She smiled, lightly brushing her fingers against her heart, illustrating her belief in connection that transcends grief. The villagers erupted in soft murmurs. Leah, caught within the child's simplicity, felt an inner awakening. Perhaps they were not merely seeking answers or resolution, perhaps they were meant to embrace the mystery of interwoven lives and the divine dance portraying existence. Would they learn to dwell in the unrealized questions of their hearts? What secrets whispered through the stillness between their words? And if indeed heirs passing bore gifts of insight and connection, could they have courage to embrace every aspect of their shared journey toward understanding? As the sun dipped below the horizon, stretching long shadows across the village, a collective sigh emerged from the gathered hearts beneath the oak. Leah stood, feeling the warmth of the child's innocent wisdom ripple through the group, igniting the flickering flames of contemplation anew. A sense of anticipation thickened the air, as if the earth itself awaited their next inquiry. Encouraged by the child's perspective, Jacob turned his gaze to the gathering, a subtle glimmer of determination igniting his own spirit. What if we explore Er's life instead of merely mourning his death? Perhaps the essence of his journey holds the key to our understanding. A rustle of agreement swept through the villagers, each compelled to consider the young man more as a puzzle than a tragedy. Leah looked towards the horizon, now painted in hues of dusk and twilight, pondering Jacob's challenge. What if we remember him not just for the darkness that fell upon his end but for the light he might have brought into our lives? Did his laughter echo through our kitchens? Did we share our dreams with him under the stars? Each shared memory manifested like threads being drawn from the fabric of grief, revealing a portrait of shared experiences. Miriam nodded, summoning her own reminiscences. "There was an evening when he helped me harvest my first fruits." His laughter rang so freely, it felt as if the very skies danced along with us. "We spent hours weaving stories from our hopes. Yet now, those tales feel like whispers lost in the winds of sorrow." Leah's heart surged at the roots of connection she could feel sprouting in that moment. The villagers began to recount their stories, and unveiling where Er's spirit shimmered brightly among them, the season of rainy nights filled with song, the trade of shared vegetables, the light-hearted bickering over trivial matters that deepened their bonds. Each story wove more layers into the tapestry of their community, urging them to explore Er's legacy that strangely yet genuinely painted their canvas of life. But as their conversation blossomed, darkness crept at the edges of their thoughts. Yet, perhaps even in this joy, we are turning away from the larger mystery of why he was taken, Jonathan admonished gently, his brows furrowed in concern. There is the lingering question of divine purpose. What does his death mean? Why was he chosen to bear this fate? Silence fell, heavy and contemplative. The bravado of shared stories yielded to reflection dipped in uncertainty. Leah felt an unbidden melancholy wrap around her spirit. Can we truly celebrate his life without grappling with the grief of his absence? What are we missing in our pursuit of sweetness when bitter truths remain unexamined? From the distance, they felt a melody ring. A soft, echoing bell seemed to chime from the temple atop the hill. It signaled the approach of night and called forth their vulnerability. Leah was struck by a dawning understanding. Together, through their storytelling, they had boarded a vessel steering them through turbulent waters. Each tale reflected a searching heart, yearning to forge meaning from the ashes of loss. Perhaps, she reflected aloud, in honoring Er's life and questioning his absence, we are invited to reflect inward. Might our pain, our seeking be a mirror showing us something deeper about ourselves and our connection to the divine? The villagers' gazes turned to Leah, awaiting her next words, still full of unsaid questions. They longed for clarity yet remained cognizant that they might remain in shadows, navigating the profound nuances of suffering and grace. Was it possible that their deliberation could harbor revelations not only about air but also about the two worlds, heaven and earth, that intertwined amid their existence? In that charged moment, Leah asked the question that hung in the air. What if our sorrow held not just grief but a seed of transformation, one that could birth new understanding about community, faith, and the divine's presence amid our questioning? The gathering paused, enveloped in silence, as their hearts took a breath. Beneath the darkening sky, they were left to ponder, could the essence of their collective mourning be the very threshold of their spiritual awakening? As the stars began to dot the night sky, their twinkling light offering a glimpse of hope in the enveloping darkness, Leah's question lingered like a fragile thread. The villagers sat in a deep pool of contemplative silence, their minds dancing between grief and enlightenment, like shadows flickering on the walls of their souls. Miriam, still caught in a reverie of memories, whispered, "What if Air's life was a verse in a larger hymn, one that we have yet to fully comprehend? Each of our lives woven together, a chorus of voices lifting towards something far greater than our individual strife." The air was charged, as if a divine presence had gathered with them under the great oak, listening, inviting them to delve deeper into the mysteries both seen and unseen. The whispers of the hearts became audible, and with it, the realization that pain and joy were inexorably linked in ways they could scarcely understand. Jacob leaned forward, his breath catching momentarily. What if, he began slowly, Air's departure was not merely a cruel twist of fate but a call to us all? A reminder that life is fleeting, yet in this brevity, there lies a vibrant opportunity to live more fully, to embolden our spirits and embrace each moment as sacred. The villagers stirred, sharing glances filled with awakening. The shadows that had once felt oppressive now seemed to glimmer with potential. Leah could feel the energy shift within the group, igniting a longing to not only honor Air but to discover the wisdom nestled within their shared sorrow. Maybe, Leah suggested gently, Air had intentions unbeknownst to us, plans woven into the fabric of his existence that are now our responsibility to fulfill. Could it be that he, in his absence, dares us to recognize the divine within our very beings? A distant echo of the temple bell resonated once more, this time more urgent, as if urging them onward. Jonathan, who had remained pensive, interjected, "We have spoken of stories and what Air meant to each of us, yet we must ask ourselves, what has this loss revealed in each of our hearts? Is there not a purpose in our aching questions that transcends our grief?" Leah's heart surged as she grasped the weight of his insight. Could our stories of Air invite us to uncover the hidden blessings in our lives? To reevaluate the paths we walk, perhaps with newfound wisdom and strength? She noticed nods of agreement, and even a few eyes shining with tears that no longer seemed just sorrowful but filled with the promise of understanding. Miriam spoke again, her voice steady and clear. "In the grand tapestry of our existence, perhaps Air's story is but a thread that invites us to explore our own. What if he was a vessel for greater truths, a messenger signaling that time is a precious gift?" The villagers exchanged thoughtful glances, and the spark of hope began to illuminate their hearts, chasing away the remnants of despair. Each of them sensed that this was not merely about understanding Air, it was about understanding themselves, their relationships, and how they connected to the divine mystery that pervaded all things. As Leah looked around at their gathering, she was struck by a profound realization that perhaps every soul that touched theirs was a guide, a mirror reflecting their shared humanity. Might we perceive the cracks in our lives not as fractures, but as openings for grace to flow? Can the spaces left by Air reveal the sacred gift of communion and wisdom among us? The collective breath of the villagers mingled in the cool night air, each soul grappling with the profoundness of a question. In that moment, they recognized that the exploration of Air's life and legacy was a doorway leading to an even greater inquiry. How might their pain and joy illuminate the path toward deeper connections with each other and with the divine? As the stars shimmered brightly, their light cascading down upon the earth, Leah wondered aloud, her voice a soft echo into the night, what unearthly secrets of love, loss, and understanding are woven through the very fabric of our shared existence, and what shall we learn as we continue to tread this complex journey together? The villagers remained in tranquil reflection, each heart enveloped in the warmth of this intersection of life, death, and the mysteries that lay just beyond their grasp. As dawn broke over the village, painting the sky in soft pastels, a profound stillness hung in the air, a silence pregnant with possibility. The collective gathering of hearts under the ancient oak had reshaped the fabric of their community, igniting a flame that could not be extinguished by grief. The embers of understanding glowed warmly in their hearts, urging them to consider the depths of Air's legacy not merely through the lens of sorrow, but as a bridge to revelation. Leah stood at the forefront of the nascent awakening, her spirit alight with a sense of purpose. The villagers, once burdened by the weight of unanswered questions, now faced the morning sun, ready to embrace the potential that lay ahead. They had wrestled with their pain, unearthed profound confessions, and engaged in a deeper dialogue about suffering and purpose, discovering that their individual stories were interconnected, not isolated events, but threads woven into a mosaic of existence that transcended the boundaries of grief. As they gathered around the remnants of the night's fire, Leah felt an unseen force pressing gently upon her heart, compelling her to speak once more. Perhaps the meaning of Air's fate resides not in the displayed birth, but in the unity it has awakened. We have shared our sorrows and fears, yet buried beneath them, we unearth kindness, vulnerability, and love. In the shadow of his departure, we have found a community fiercely bound together by hope. The villagers, arms entwined in solidarity, nodded in agreement. They felt the energy shift inexplicably. The invisible string of connection that tied them together resonated with a deeper understanding. In the quiet of the morning, Leah sensed that their collective pain had germinated the seeds of transformation, paving the way for a deeper exploration of the divine within themselves and each other. As the sun climbed higher, illuminating the land with vibrant brilliance, an elder named Jacob, his face etched with the wisdom of years, addressed the gathering. What if we view Air not as an end, but as a new beginning, a catalyst for our journey toward deeper revelations? If we recognize that our trials, like Air's fate, can reveal hidden truths about our existence, then we honor his memory in a transformative way. In that moment, the villagers understood. Air's life, marked by shadows and mysteries, had birthed an invitational call to delve deeper into their own souls, to seek the light that existed even in the darkest corners. The grief they had carried transformed from a burden into a conduit for growth and understanding. The very act of facing their collective pain bore the promise of healing, reminding them that they were not alone in their struggles. Miriam, whose heart shimmered with newfound hope, stood up. Let us commit to honoring Air's legacy by weaving into our daily lives the lessons we've uncovered. May we strive to share our hearts freely, to confront our shadows openly, and to seek the divine not only in joy but also in pain. As we embrace the sacredness of our shared vulnerabilities, may we find grace flourishing in unexpected places. The villagers erupted in murmurs of agreement, their spirits rising with each passing word. Together they vowed to embrace not only their joys but their sorrows, recognizing them as part of their human experience, a rich tapestry that celebrated both the light and dark. They understood now that the quest for divine purpose transcended the need for resolution. It was a journey, an exploration of faith embodied in the courage to face what lurked within. Fortified by their bonds of love and shared humanity, Leah felt a deep sense of closure washing over her. The whispers of doubt that had once plagued her heart began to dissipate, replaced by a resounding truth. The beauty of life lay in its complexities, its interwoven stories, and the grace that danced along the edges. Through Air's absence, they had discovered a collective awakening, a flourishing of hope that begged each person to engage with their spiritual essence and to uplift one another. As the morning sun bathed the village in warmth and light, Leah raised her arms toward the sky, feeling a rush of gratitude flood through her. Let us go forth as a village transformed, she proclaimed, seeking not only to heal what is broken, but to celebrate what is whole. May our lives become a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and a reflection of divine love. In that sacred moment, as laughter joined the sighs of relief and joy filled the air, the villagers understood they were embarking on a new chapter, not defined by loss but illuminated by love, unity, and faith. They would carry forward the essence of Air, not merely in silence, but in the vibrancy of their lives, a tribute to the depths of sorrow that had compelled them towards the heights of grace. And so, as they turned toward the sun, intertwined through the tapestry of life, they stepped boldly into their future, hearts ablaze with hope. The journey ahead would not be without challenges, but now they carried within them the unwavering belief that even in the darkest nights, the dawn would break anew. Each soul, strengthened by shared suffering, was a beacon of faith, lighting the way for one another, reminding them that the divine presence lay not only within the heavens but intricately woven through every heartbeat of their shared existence, a melody of life that would forever echo through eternity.